So again, thank you for being here this morning. Really going to cover HomeBases, our college engagement session about Beavers building together. Last year about this time, a video was sent out about HomeBases and the implementation and launching the HomeBases. We entered into this virtual world, so it changed us a little bit, and we had to shift how we looked at our HomeBases. But really happy to be here today to provide an update. I know my typing is really small here. I probably broke every rule of PowerPoint, but wanted to just put our vision, our mission, our values. We are committed to transforming all of our students and the communities that we serve through inclusive, equitable education. We know that to do that, we have to transform our institution. We've made that commitment to place our students first, to serve our community, our commitment to social justice and equity, and transforming our students' lives. So as we developed our updated and developed our new mission and vision and value statement back in 2017, we made that commitment to serve our students and serve them, and committed to social justice and equity. Also, we included our Indigenous land statement to acknowledge that we occupy the land that is the traditional home of the Liaisons, Maidu, and Miwok tribal nations. These sovereign people have been caretakers of the land since time immemorial. Despite centuries of genocide and occupation of the Liaisons, Maidu, and Miwok continue as vibrant and resilient tribes and bands, both federally recognized and unrecognized. And we want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the generations that have gone before, as well as those present day Liaisons, Maidu, and Miwok people. And our college is set on the land, and we just want to acknowledge the caretakers of the land. Strategic goals, again, lots of writing, but just to remind us of our strategic goals: placing our students first, the clear and effective pathways, exemplary teaching and learning and working environment, and vibrance and resiliency. So we put our students first. And so we have to change, or we had to change the way we served our students. So again, I got a lot of writing up there, but and then in 2016-17, we joined the California Guided Pathways Project. We were one of 20 colleges in California. One of our sister colleges, Cosumnes River College, was accepted into the pilot. Guided Pathways is a nationwide movement about creating clear and effective paths to get students onto a path, for helping the students stay on the path, and then ensuring learning along the path. And so when we look at our colleges, making sure our students get on a path, making sure that they clarify their path, and then that they're staying on their path, and really wrapping around our students to provide them the support that they need along the path. So we know historically our students have wandered through our institutions, and this is just not ARC specific, but nationwide our students and statewide our students have wandered through our institutions, and then they've stayed with us for a long period of time, and they utilize their financial aid, and then they don't transfer on, or when they get to the four-year college, they might not have financial aid. And so trying to clarify their path, getting them on a path early, staying on the path, checking in with them. So when we look at all of those elements, naturally in our redesign, we really needed to look at how we did that, and to continue to keep our students on that path. And I included a lot of hyperlinks. So again, when we share the slides, you can go to these various hyperlinks, but we're all familiar with the ARC redesign that we have gone through with our governance structure, with how we do types of teams or project teams, but we needed to redesign our institution. Our students needed us to redesign our institution. And with the challenge of the design that we had, again, students were wandering through our institutions. They were not completing on time. The students had a disjointed experience at the institution. And to shift an institution, it takes a while. So, and we're in the midst of a lot of that work even today. But we needed to redesign our college, and we're doing that and doing great work. Everyone across the board doing great work to redesign the college to really serve our students. And then talking about course success rates and equity achievement gaps, we are measuring ourselves by our lowest performing students at the institution. That's why we really had to redesign the institution so that our students could achieve, so our students could be successful in the college. And then that's the need for the clear paths. So as we have changed and looked at, and Bill is going to be the next presenter, but talking about areas of interest, we had a Start Right group that worked on the front door and entering the college. We had a group working on IPASS, the integrated programs and support for students, looking at management of the students, where milestones should occur, and then the Clarify Programs Path to Committee. And that was really the need. That was really what launched us into the work of HomeBases and where we are today. And so I will turn it over to Bill.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So I'm going to give some background on the college's areas of interest and how they're being used as themes for our home-based pathways communities. I think there's a slide before this one, Jeff. Is there not? There, okay. So as you just heard, a few years ago, ARC decided to become a guided pathways college. And so 3 project teams were created to make recommendations on how best to do that. Start Right, IPASS, and Clarify Program Paths. So in 2018, the Clarify Program Paths project team recommended creating 9 meta majors, which we called areas of interest. Those areas would be used to organize the more than 300 degrees and certificates offered by ARC into groups based on common themes. The original areas were meant to simply be an organizational tool to help students more easily find programs of study that align with their general interests, without having to wade through a long alphabetical list. We thought it would be easier to ask students what their general interests are, like art, business, science, or people, and then guide them to 1 or 2 areas of interest where they could explore their options. And once they've chosen an area of interest, they could more easily narrow down their options to pick an initial major. So hopefully we would have fewer completely undecided students, and maybe we could help students find an initial major earlier in their academic career. So next slide. So in 2018, the Clarify Program Paths project team recommended the following 9 areas of interest: applied technology and digital arts, business, hospitality, and recreation. Next slide. Health, human services, and well-being, language and communication, manufacturing, construction, and transportation. Next slide. People, culture, and society, public service and education, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM. Okay. So instead of having a long alphabetical list of departments or programs to wade through on our website, students would first see these 9 areas of interest, and they could click on one of them to see which degrees and certificates we offered within that area. This recommendation was made by the Clarify Program Paths project team while Start Right IPASS teams were still working on their recommendations. So we knew that we would have to update it once the college started implementing the recommendations from the other 2 teams, but it was a good place for us to start. Next slide. So the original 9 areas of interest were being used as a finder's guide, a way to organize the 300+ degrees and certificates offered by the college to help students find programs of study that might interest them. And since the goal at that time was to help students find programs, the boundaries on the 9 areas were intentionally fuzzy, allowing some programs to be in more than one area of interest. Okay, next slide. Since 2018, the college has been implementing the recommendations from the Clarify Program Paths, Start Right, and IPASS project teams. And as part of that implementation, a decision was made to use our areas of interest to cohort students during onboarding. It was also decided that we would create pathways communities organized around our areas of interest to support our students after onboarding. Those decisions required us to redesign the areas of interest so that each program of study belongs to a single area. So we revisited the areas of interest and narrowed them down to 8 from the original 9. and we firmed up their boundaries. Next slide. So our current areas of interest are arts, business, health, human services and well-being, and language and communication. Next slide. Manufacturing, construction and transportation, people, culture and society, public service, and STEM. Next slide. So here's all 8 of those on one slide. So as the idea of pathways communities evolved into home bases, a decision was made to create 6 home bases to support these 8 areas of interest, with 2 home bases supporting more than one area due to the number of students, similar themes, and similar locations where the students were taking their classes back when we were still on campus. Next slide. So the arts, business, manufacturing, construction, and transportation, and STEM areas are supported by their own home bases. Both the people, culture, and society, and language and communication areas are supported by the language and people home base. And both the health, human services and well-being, and public service areas are supported by the health and service home base. So our areas of interest started out as a way to organize all of our degrees and certificates to make it easier for students to find programs of study that interest them. But they evolved over time into a way to cohort students during the onboarding process, and also as themes for our new home-based pathways communities. So this is a little more history and how we got to where we are today. And I'm going to pass it back to you now, Jeff.
Thank you, Bill. And I will pass it to Frank.
Morning, everybody. Am I the only one that's entertained by Randy the Shark Schuster? Just me? All right. So Lisa and I have this slide. Elisa, do you want to take a stab, or you want me to start off?
Good morning. Yeah, you can start off, Frank.
Okay. Our slide is implementation team, and this was a semester's worth of work, actually a semester plus worth of work during the height of the pandemic. So we, as you recall, we had the listening sessions during spring 20 convocation when we were still face-to-face. And that resulted in the implementation team, which was a broad representation of campus stakeholders looking at implementing home bases. So we started meeting face-to-face, and then the pandemic happened, and we continued to meet face-to-face. We continued to meet via Zoom. We weren't very good at it in the beginning, but we powered through and began to work through what home base would look like. And one of the epiphanies we made was that point that relationships matter. As we were talking about how we would implement home bases, we realized that so much was missing in the virtual world in terms of our connections with students, in terms of places where students could congregate, where students could be connected to each other and to our campus community. And that really launched the architecture for the virtual home bases. The concept was, if we're forced to be virtual, we want to take the plans that we had and apply them to the virtual world. And that's where the virtual home bases were launched. Elisa, what else am I missing?
Yeah, those initial conversations when we were on ground were very much focused on the physical presence of the home bases, with this, imagination of the idea that, we would be able to walk students over to a home base that's near, where as faculty, we might have an office where there'd be the physical presence of counseling and services and so forth. And we, at that time, were thinking too that, at some point, we're going to have to really address the virtual space, right? But back then, we were thinking of the virtual space as the afterthought. Fortunately, we were thinking about it because, as Frank mentioned, that's when the pandemic hit, and we had no choice but to focus on the virtual space, preserving that theme of the relationships, the connections.
I'm going to call someone. I got a private message. This is a very wise message. There's always a plan for the virtual element. But the pandemic just flipped the emphasis necessary in developing them. So this is a very wise colleague who private messaged me. That's absolutely true. It's really parallel to everything that we're doing right now in the pandemic. So very wise colleague, thank you. And Elisa and I will yield the floor to the next presenter.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Nisha.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Frank. Morning, everyone. As Frank and Alyssa said, the implementation team made some quick turns here and there and everywhere, and we went into our virtual home bases. These were very quick decisions, and towards the end of spring, really very close to the beginning of summer, we started planning for the home bases. And as you know, that's a very big transition to do over summer, as our faculty are out, a lot of folks are out. But I have to give credit to everyone. People came on board, everyone worked together, and we launched our home bases, of course, in collaboration with Jazzy Muganza-Murphy, who oversees a lot of this work, or all of this work, in August. And I believe I would say our launch date was something like August 10th last year. So here we are. We haven't completed our first year. But the first year, I would say, when we first started, the home-based team that you see here on this slide was not necessarily the entire home-based team we started with. You know, my counselor colleagues or from the counseling department stepped up. You know, we had so many different other responsibilities that our counseling faculty had, but they were able to pick up some time in the home bases so that we could start our work. We had some coaches, and then slowly we have grown this program as a team over the year. We're not there yet. It's definitely work in progress, very much in progress. We are going to need more support. We're going to need to bring on more support. We're going to need more counseling faculty in there probably, because at this time, everybody is doing what they can to bring this up. And I think a great job is being done at this time, but we will continue to grow. So the home-based teams are coaches, are amazing coaches in the home bases, our counselors, our faculty liaison from the instructional side of the house, peer mentors, clerks, and tutors. And so this is, I think our numbers are slowly going to grow. Hopefully, as we go into year 2, we will stabilize more. But I can see teamwork happening. I can see ideas coming out, and I think we will also have to continue to add those resources that we are working on, that Jazzy's working on, to build our teams and our support for our students. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Nisha. And I did hyperlink to the home base website, so you can see who the coaches are and who the counselors are associated to the home base. And again, I will send this out to everyone, but thank you, Nisha. And really do want to just give a shout out to all those that have been involved in the teams this year. Worked really hard. We had to pivot very quickly in this world of virtual, and then also with hiring freezes and all the things that have occurred in COVID or with COVID. Really do appreciate the coaches, the counselors, the faculty liaisons, the teams that are working really hard and changing and pivoting when they need to in this environment. So really want to give some kudos to the teams out there. And then I will actually turn it over to Kathy.
So the faculty liaisons, as Nisha said, this is a work in progress. And so at the beginning of fall 20, the faculty liaisons were not in place, with the exception of Teresa Urkowski, who's completely amazing, in the ARC home base. But the other 5 home bases did not have any faculty liaisons. And one of the jobs that Teresa did, along with Elisa and myself, was to craft the job description for the faculty liaisons. And so by the end of fall, the decision was made to go ahead and expand the faculty liaisons a bit. And so we have now faculty liaisons in construction management and transportation, as well as the health and service home bases. So in spring 21, we were up to 3 faculty liaisons. Teresa Urkowski continued, thank goodness. Randy, the Shark Schuster, apparently, and then Jana Gonzalez over in health and service. And so we've been meeting about every 2 weeks with the 4 of us and talking about, what are they doing in their home bases? How are they communicating? What kinds of activities are happening in the home base? But really it's pretty organic, and we're trying to get a good foundation so that as we move, because obviously this year is the first year. And so setting up a good foundation so that we can really launch hard in the next year. So there's a call for faculty liaisons out now for the other 3 home bases, language and people, STEM, and business. And so hopefully when we're ready to go for fall 22, we'll be fully staffed in the faculty liaisons. And the idea, I think, with having all 6 of them as well, is what I'm seeing just with Teresa, Randy, and Jana is that there's a lot of synergy when they're all together in a Zoom right now. I can only imagine the energy that would happen if they were all actually in the same room. But so I imagine that when we have all 6 together, it's going to be really fun to see what sorts of best practices they come up, what kinds of ideas that they're going to share across the home bases. Some, because obviously some will be more appropriate. Some ideas will be more appropriate in some home bases than others. But that's really the idea with the faculty liaisons. So Elisa, I don't know if you want to jump in and add anything to that.
Just a tiny bit, that working together so that there's some commonalities between the things that are offered at the home bases, but also respecting and cultivating the uniqueness of each home base, that recognizing that each home base is going to have its own personality, its own vibe, right, to best serve the students. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Thank you. And then I will flip this slide.
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks. And so I think I'm still on for this one. And Nisha, you can jump into this one too at any time. So we also have an advisory team. And I didn't make a list of everybody. I wanted to do that, but then I realized that would be crazy and you would never be able to read anything. I'd sort of be doing what Jeff did at the beginning with it, like 6-point font, because there are a number of people who have participated in these meetings, but they're composed of instructional faculty, counseling faculty, classified, and administrators. And really the goal is to provide feedback and also to just sort of keep everybody apprised about what's happening in the meta home base, right? What's happening across all of the whole structure, and then talk about some past activities and future activities. And this year we've met 3 times. We met twice in the fall, September 30th, October 28th, and we met once just after the beginning of the semester, February 24th. But the idea is that this team would continue to meet certainly as we move forward, because we think it's really important to just make sure that everybody is apprised of what's going on and has that opportunity to provide feedback. Nisha, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, thank you, Kathy. I think, and as there was a question in the chat as well, so I just wanted to say that, Kathy, Jazzy, and myself, we are the tri-chairs of the advisory committee. Jazzy is the lead for the home bases and the work that is done in the home bases for clarification. And I'd just like to say, I offered to put my picture up here as a tri-chair, but Kathy said no.
Well, and so one of the other questions in here is that the construction liaison, Kirsten, is Randy Schuster, just so you know that. And then there's a great shout out to Kristen Farlow. Nice. Okay, cool.
Thank you. And then, we see this as Home Bases version 1.0 as we end our current year. We want to celebrate that we made it through our first year of Home Bases. We know that there are things that need to be improved. I compare it to like our cell phones or technology and computers where we have to update, we continue to update, we continue to refine our model. And that's what we're planning on doing. One of the parts of the implementation report was the evaluation of HomeBases. So Adam Karp and his team, along with Jazzy, is working on evaluation so that we can measure the effectiveness of our HomeBases and make sure that we're improving and hearing from our students of what is needed, or what they see also, and the feedback from the home-based teams. We always want to continuously improve those HomeBases. We want to make sure that there's things that we still need to address with planning time with our HomeBases, and there's only so many hours in the week and day, and so trying to figure out how we balance that out and continue to serve our students. So we have work to do, but very happy that we are here a year later after our implementation team finished their work and then moved in to actually implementing virtual HomeBases, and excited about when we do get to return to on ground and being able to occupy some of those spaces that has been designated. Another item is during the summer and fall, we will be moving forward with hiring our permanent staff in the HomeBases. And this, is a challenge with all of our across the college, across the district, across the state because of COVID. Most places have done hiring freezes. So now we are starting to move forward where we can start hiring permanent positions for our HomeBases. So we're excited about that, and that work will continue over the summer and probably into the fall to hire those permanent positions. And then, as I stated, continuous improvement. We know that things need to we need to adjust, and things need to be adjusted, and we need more support, and we're going to continue to do that as we move forward. It just takes time as we shift resources and spaces and people. It takes a time to continue to do that, but really looking at continuously improving and making HomeBases a vital part of our students' experience and also our experience at the college and the work that we do each day, every day. And then in spring of 2022, we have a commitment to come back to the college just like this and update what happened over the next year, academic year, and where we are, so that we can continuously keep the college and everyone informed of what is happening with HomeBases. Very excited. Again, lots of shout outs to all those that have been involved in the HomeBases and working in the HomeBases and really getting the HomeBases moving forward over the past year. And Jazzy, just so that you all are aware, is away from the college today and last week. So she would love to be here, but she's also away from the college for until Monday. And then on behalf of all of us, we as presenters, we want to thank you for being with us, and we'll still have time for questions and chat for what time we have remaining, but really just wanted to give a shout out to all the presenters this morning, and then all of you for participating. So thank you so much for being here this morning.